This is Connor. He recently graduated with his master's degree and has always believed he has what it takes to win an audition as principal trumpet in a professional orchestra. But when the pressure hits in an audition, he has trouble playing the way he knows he's capable of. He's confident in his skills and often plays his best in concerts, especially when he's playing principal, but behind the screen, his heart rate spikes to upwards of 180 beats per minute, he has trouble focusing, and even when he feels he has solid preparation, he can't quite show the musician he knows he is. After years of progress mixed with many setbacks, Connor's resilience has started to collide with doubt. He's made real growth, but each setback makes him wonder whether he'll ever truly reach his dream and win the audition that he's been working toward. So, Connor took my detailed performance diagnostic survey that measured every part of his approach, his belief, his identity, his organization, fundamentals, and more. Then we went through his results together, line by line, searching for the real reason his confidence and growth haven't transferred to his auditions yet. By the end of the session we had together, we had uncovered one simple change he could make that would improve his practice, lead to more consistent progress, and get him on the path toward reaching his goal. It's great to have this opportunity to get together, Connor. Before we get started, I was kind of interested in getting your thoughts on the survey in terms of, did you feel like, even just like answering the questions and thinking about the questions, did you feel like that was kind of a helpful exercise in and of itself, even before we get to the analysis? Like, what was your thought on just doing a questionnaire with those types of questions?
It did. I mean, it, for me, caused me to, I guess, go back and really think more deeply upon, like, how I really truthfully, I guess, think about myself as a musician and the things I've gone through and things I struggle with the questions, and sort of being able to put like a somewhat of a number or a feeling towards, like, I think I'm confident or good at this or not so much at this, and then having something that is based around those questions you asked previously, it allowed me to sort of hone in on, you know, I guess what has caused me to develop whatever feelings I have, and then give more honest answers towards what I'm looking for and what I really need to work on in order to become the musician I want to become.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'm going to share this analysis with you, and it's going to sound very familiar, right? Because it's all of your own thoughts and your words. But
yes,
my goal with this is to, there are going to be certain things you're strong in, and there's going to be certain areas of improvement, right? And so I want to encourage you by saying the things that are strengths, this is like, because you did great work in your career, you know, and it's we can sometimes feel like, because when we're not where we want to be, which is kind of a never ending thing, right? Because we're not where we want to be, that we can almost kind of have this feeling like everything is horrible. But there are many things that you do that are really, really good. And then there are some areas for improvement that I look forward to digging in to try to help you get some real clarity on. What I want to start with is just going through each of these categories and kind of giving you like an overview of what I have here, and then also maybe just asking you some questions to see if I can get some clarity on it. So let's start with belief. What it seems like when I read this analysis on your belief is that you've kind of got this like very big, like 30,000 foot view that you totally believe you're going to be able to accomplish the things you want to accomplish. So it's like, it's possible for me to be, you know, principal trumpet in an orchestra. It's possible for me to have a career in music, but maybe from day to day, you don't see as much evidence of those things. So like, it's almost like on a day to day, it's hard for you to believe it, but you still have a lot of resolve. Would you say that's accurate?
I would say that's accurate.
Yeah. And so, I mean, we will talk about this, but right out of the gate, what's one way, or what's something that you have been thinking about that could help you maybe see it more on a day-to-day basis that you are capable of? Or maybe a way to ask it is, what do you feel like you're missing that's causing you to not be able to see that evidence that you know it's possible, but you're not seeing as much of it right now?
I think for me on the day-to-day right now, it's to a degree, struggling to find joy in the process. I don't know why, but sometimes I get in this zone of just trudging sort of through it. And it's not like I'm not focused or not trying, but I'm sort of trudging along and sort of pushing myself to keep going and pushing to keep doing things instead of enjoying the process of improving while I'm practicing and recording myself and giving myself notes to work on and doing that in continuous reps. Sometimes for whatever reason, it just gets to be a slog in my head. And so it gets hard for me to enjoy the day to day. But I still sort of have this, I guess, resolve I've cultivated over the past few months that I can do this and I can succeed, which then pushes me to keep going through that sort of trudginess. But I would like to get to a point where I do enjoy the process of improvement. But I'm not sure, I guess, why I'm not, almost.
So is the picture in your head that what it sounds like to me, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but that you have
Yes.
somewhat of an expectation that joy should be part of the process of improvement. Do you feel like that's accurate, that you sort of have that belief?
I don't know that I expect it per se, but I feel like I almost never feel it, and it should happen every now and then, at least.
So you have,
for even just small ones.
So you have, an expectation that there should be some.
Yes, I would say there should be some. Obviously, not all the time. Not every day is going to be this hip hip hooray, yay! I want to practice. I want to do this thing so much. But if every now and then I had days like that, or even just moments like that where maybe something finally clicked, it would be great. But sometimes something will click and I'm just like, oh yeah, cool. And then I just move on.
Okay. So I guess what I'm getting at here, and I'm glad you have sort of a realistic understanding or expectation, because I think if you think every day is going to be, like you said, hip hip hooray, this is wonderful, I feel like that's an unrealistic expectation. But at the same time, like, so let's take it this way. Are there times where you have experienced joy in the process of improvement or in your process of practicing? And if so, can you sort of paint that picture for me so I can understand a time when it has happened?
Yes, it's definitely happened. It definitely happened actually at the start of me doing your routine, because I noticed progress really fast. And that might be why. Like my articulation very, very quickly became much more consistent, and the pronunciation was much clearer and firm, but not like pointed and heavy. And I found a lot of joy in getting to know that and getting to know my sound sort of becoming easier to create. But as I've gone on and things have gotten a little more detailed, I just don't really experience, I guess, these big, I don't know, moments of, wow, this really worked. And I guess moments of, wow, this really worked is what I guess causes me to have joy to a degree.
Yeah. So there's two different things that I feel like we could say about that. Number one, what I feel like you just described is kind of what I almost call conceptual progress. Like, it's progress that can happen very quickly because you've shifted the way that you think about something, and that can yield a really amazing result really quickly. But then we have like what I would call like physical progression, which I don't know if these names are 100% accurate, but the idea of physical progression is these are things that just take time to develop. And so we're always trying to maximize our conceptual progression, like changing the way we think about things to yield better results. But at a certain point in time, you're going to have like very good thoughts about things. And it's just that kind of longer period of time of sort of waiting for the gains to come to you.
Yes.
So there's obviously, you've described that, which I totally understand. But one part I would like to challenge you on a little bit, if I may, is it sounds like you're almost saying that you can't really experience joy unless this sort of external process that you are sort of controlling, but sort of not don't have control in. You're like letting that process dictate your joy. So it's almost like you're letting the outcome, like the result of those things, dictate whether or not you find joy in the process. So not so much that you enjoy digging in and you enjoy learning things, but you actually find joy and then you got better. Does that sound accurate?
I would say so, yes. I definitely, I guess that might be what I'm missing. I definitely do find joy sometimes in digging in and like really trying to figure something out, but it is definitely way less than I guess whenever I receive an outcome. And really, the process is at the start, obviously, you're going to see more great progress than you are once you get towards the big thick of it, whenever the really, I guess, beginning gains come. And then once you get into the thick of it, it is time based. And so finding joy through digging in and getting really detailed and trying to notice things I haven't noticed before is something I haven't really done.
And I like that you're using the word joy, just to like say that. Like, I think some people want practice to be fun, and that's different than even like experiencing joy. I think practice that is very methodical and focused, and that generates or yields actual results, is very rarely fun.
I agree. I don't know that it should necessarily be fun. For me, whenever I'm having fun playing my instrument, it's like when I'm performing or when I'm playing with my friends or things like that. And in order to be able to have fun playing my instrument, I need way time by myself where I'm not necessarily having fun, but I'm just digging in order to get better. So then I can play more things, and just, I think creating better music overall is more fun.
Yeah. So just to remember where we've come from, like, obviously we're talking about this through belief and like what might help you have a little bit more belief on the day to day. And you're sort of connecting it to, well, a lack of joy kind of makes you feel like this isn't something that I don't see that I'm moving in the direction. And so I kind of want to reframe for a second, if that's okay, that maybe it's not joy that you're experiencing or not experiencing. Maybe it's just that because you're not seeing the progress as quickly as you once were, that might make you think or believe that if it's not happening quickly, then it may not happen at all. And so maybe it's more of because I'm not seeing that same result, maybe you would call it joy because you get enjoyment out of that realizing that gain. But I could see how that would make you also question the belief that it's like, I know I want to head here. I know I'm totally possible, but it's like I'm sort of stuck in not knowing how to continually make regular progress toward that. Does that feel like that feels like it's more sort of akin to what we've been talking about? And so what I want to sort of suggest the idea that what if we replaced your desire for joy with something else that could be a little bit more process driven? Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
So I can say for myself, and you can say, maybe you would agree with this or not, but I can say for myself, one of the main things I get from diving into the process, whether it's happening quickly or I'm having a bad day, is at minimum, it's interesting to me. Like, my practice is never boring. My practice is always, I feel like I'm learning something or I'm solidifying something. Do you find that you've had experiences where your practice was interesting, and was that a gratifying experience for you as well? Would you sort of connect it to joy, or does it feel different to you?
I would actually connect that to joy. That's interesting. I've never thought about it that way, but oftentimes when I am most, I guess, enjoying my practice is whenever I am getting deep into the weeds and sort of just trying to figure things out and come up with new ideas to help me keep improving. But I guess I've never connected those two as being, or just connected at all.
Yeah. So now that you've connected this, how do you think maybe putting like, let's just, for the sake of this discussion, right? How do you think focusing more on maybe digging into the weeds and making your practice interesting could affect A, your joy, and then B, potentially the belief from the day-to-day seeing more? That, do you feel like there's a connection there?
I do, because to me, if I'm able to pretty much be more engaged with my practice, because I would be enjoying it more, I guess. It's because I'm not trying to say it would be more fun or something, but I would just be more engaged with what I'm doing. That would then allow me to, I guess, believe in the process more, because I through putting more effort in and through getting into the weeds more, I believe that I would be able to discover more, which then could lead to me believing more in the process and knowing that long term, all of these discoveries that I'm making through digging into the weeds and just digging through things and sort of going about it in a methodical manner, I will be able to get to my final destination. But right now, I don't necessarily need to worry about that. I just need to keep going from one day to the next.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to talk a little bit about how maybe we could adjust the current process you're using so that you can make, because what I want to do, I don't want to create something, or I don't want you to have a practice plan that's something that's like really awesome, except unless you don't do it, right? Unless it's like rigid enough or something that it can't, like, you feel like, well, if I can't do the plan, then I might as well not do the plan at all. Kind of like, I understand how we can get into all or nothing thinking. So I want to explore that, because it sounds to me like if we could solve that problem of how do we get you a plan that you could not just regularly be practicing. Of course, that consistency is important for that end goal that you're looking for, which is, from what I understand, to be principal trumpet in an orchestra. That's like where you want to be headed.
Yes.
Not just like the consistency with that, but actually making sure you we have a full understanding of how we will use that process to really get into the nitty gritty. So you feel like there's an interest there. And the good news about this is you don't need nearly as many hours of practice when you practice this way to see that progress. When you really put an emphasis on learning, saying that learning stuff is the most important part about what I'm doing at first. Once I feel like I've learned some things that are good, then I'm going to kind of see if I can imprint those things. And then it's this constant, like, we're going to look in and see where can I dig into something else that I don't know. And when you have that kind of ability to do it, do you see how that would help you feel like, A, you can always continually make progress, and B, that it's just a matter of time before you get where you want to go?
Yes, I can, because then it is just me knowing that all of the effort I'm putting in day to day is stacking up, and over time I will get to where I want to be, even if maybe there isn't a big aha moment at some point in time, but just that due to small gains over time adding up to be like a huge gain that I can't really see per se, I can get to where I want to go. Yeah.
And I want to encourage you. I totally believe that's possible too. You know, I've seen it with myself. I've seen that I have made huge, I mean, you've known me for some time, and like the kinds of outcomes I'm having in, like, let's say auditions or performances are very different than I was having 5 years ago. And so if at minimum you can, like, say to yourself, I'm willing to pursue this for 5 years, and take kind of the pressure off of how soon it's going to happen. And like you said, start thinking more day to day. What are activities that I can do that are going to keep practice interesting, that's going to keep me involved in what I'm doing and keep me learning? Like, that would almost be like a result that would it would basically help you align the day to day sort of lack of belief you have right now with that big picture belief that seems somewhat unshakable, actually, which I think is very admirable in you.
It definitely does. I think that for me, it's just, I've never thought about it that way. My overall picture, I have, and it's taken a very long time. And I think even if you talked to me 6 months ago, I wouldn't be thinking this way. I have cultivated in myself a real belief that I can accomplish this. And as long as I never give up on it and I keep putting good effort in, at some point in time, I will get there. I'm surprised that I've never thought of putting that same belief in what I'm doing every single day and how that could then impact the long-term goal.
Yeah, that's very cool, huh? How does it feel? How does it feel right now that, I mean, obviously you're sort of in this, just your probably ideas are bouncing around in your head, but kind of how are you feeling right now about, like, the possibility of addressing those types of things? How would that affect you?
I think my first feeling was excitement, because truthfully, I've never thought about it that way. And I know that through cultivating a belief like that, it makes me enjoy my process more. And if it's going to make me enjoy my process more every single day, then I guess in part, I get more excited because it helps me believe that from the day to day, it's going to allow me to engage more with what I'm doing and then make even more progress, sort of unknowingly.
Yeah. Like almost like a byproduct, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's what I mean.
No, that's great. I mean, we're saying the same thing. I want to move on to identity and make sure we hit these other things, but I felt like this was such a really important thing to cover for you, because what you just said is essentially, if I have this process that seems interesting to me and exciting, the results that I want, the joy I get from that is a byproduct of that. So you can experience that, but you're not necessarily putting all your eggs in the basket of, I hope I can get better so I can still enjoy this process. Instead, you're saying, how can I maybe wield a little bit more control, and even just experimentation, right? That's like part of the interesting. Let's try this for 2 weeks. Let's try this for 2 weeks. See if we can journal and make some connections of things that are good, and you almost start to build. So what I want to do in terms of like things like organization and stuff like that is just give some generalized places to start, and then we'll maybe talk through just a mindset that you can approach those things with, so you can like have some flexibility of, my practice doesn't have to be exactly the same every single day, but it's something that I know I'm going to dig in and I'm going to learn something about myself, or I'm going to see how what I have learned previously is becoming more and more habitual. And then at least at minimum, you're like, well, I may not be getting better as fast as I want to get, but at least like I'm enjoying like trying to see if I can get better. I feel like that would make a big difference. Do you agree?
I think that would make a massive difference.
Awesome.
Seriously, this is blowing my mind a little bit, but I think this would make a huge difference. I don't know why I've never thought about thinking of all of this that way.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's helped just to bounce an idea off somebody else, I've thought about this stuff a lot too. So I wouldn't be too hard on yourself, but I think it can be helpful to have bounce this idea off of. So to move on to identity, I feel like that was a great discussion. I don't want to beat a dead horse. I feel like we have a lot to think there, so we just kind of leave it there.
I agree.
So for identity, what it looks like to me is you sort of have like a hot and cold type situation. Places you feel comfortable, you've had a lot of experiences with, you know exactly who you are, but in other situations that you may not feel as comfortable with, you don't necessarily feel maybe you can put the same kind of strong foot forward with that confidence. Do you agree with that? Can you sort of give me an example of a time you feel confident and maybe another time where you feel less confident?
Absolutely. Yeah. For me, at least performance-wise, I have always felt most confident in myself playing principal. I don't know why that is. I know that people refer to it as the highest pressure position, but for me, it has always felt like the least pressure, because I don't know, in regards to like second and third trumpet, I always get concerned I'm going to negatively impact the principal. And so it actually stresses me out more than playing principal. And also with, I guess, things, I also do struggle whenever I don't like what I'm playing, which is then why I sort of struggle in wind ensemble scenarios. Some of that music I think is awesome, but there's a lot of it that I've played that I did not enjoy, and me not enjoying it didn't help, because oftentimes those parts are pretty crazy, which then led to a lack of confidence going into whatever concert I may be playing. And so the product was not terrible by any means, but definitely not nearly as good as other concerts I've played, where I felt fully confident in what I'm doing and just completely trust that I can do this. Like it's almost not even a question. I don't even think about it that I can do it. I just know, I guess.
So I understand completely what you're saying, and I mean, it sounds like there's a couple things wrapped up in there too. It's not necessarily just, well, I haven't done this a lot, so I don't feel comfortable, but also maybe if the technical demands of the music exceed where you're at, that can lead to less lack of confidence. But if I sort of presented this idea, do you think then the way you think about yourself, the way you see yourself, the things you know you have to offer, do you think that should be context dependent? Do you think it should? Sorry, I mean, I know you were about to answer it. What I mean by context dependent is, do you feel in an ideal world that no matter, do you feel like how you feel about yourself or what you have to offer should change based on like what you're playing or how hard the music is or anything like that?
I think in an ideal world, obviously no. And I think part of the problem is my mindset regarding things I am not good at has led me to just not feeling confident, and it also causing me to, funnily enough, work less hard on those things because it just didn't make me feel good, I guess, or I'm not confident. And so I wouldn't want to keep pursuing it. But the funny thing is if I just, instead of making specific things like, oh, this is something I'm confident in, this is something I'm not, and I'm going to sort of play to that, instead of just playing things as they're all the same, they're all music, they're all me playing the trumpet, I can play them all with a really high quality, and I deserve to do that, then I think it wouldn't even be a question. If that makes sense.
So obviously you understand where I'm headed with this, and what I want to suggest to you in this way, because I don't think this is necessarily like a weakness of yours, but what we're saying is, how is it possible? Like, what would it be like for you to basically very clearly define you in your best or at your best? What would that look like? And then essentially, like, how could you step into that and say, you know what, there may be some things about these pieces that are really hard for me. And so because I'm still developing as a player, I might not be able to fully do those things, but that doesn't necessarily mean I shouldn't show what I have to offer anyway. And I think when you've really defined who you are in terms of, at minimum, the easiest way to define this is just to ask, what do I want an audience to think when they hear me play? So like, let's do that example really quickly. What's like one or two things that like come to mind right away that you want an audience member to think when they hear you play?
The first thing I think is I want them to have an opinion on it. Whether it's good or bad, I want to play in a way that will evoke opinions out of the audience. I think that to me truly means I am speaking true to myself, because if I'm being true to myself, I think not everyone should like it. But then through that, for those who do, it could be very impactful. Along with that, I mean, I guess hopefully in other scenarios where the trumpet isn't like a major voice, I hope that I am able to be, to a degree, an unnoticed member of a conglomerate to the audience at times.
Can I ask you, can I just, I mean, these are great. These are super important. Maybe in the specific context, let's say you're doing a solo recital.
Okay.
Right. So obviously you've already said the first one, which is great. You want the audience members to have an opinion. It is my belief that true art forces people to have an opinion. Like, you can't, like, when you see a piece by Picasso, you're not like, that's fine. You either are like, wow, that's really interesting, or it's beautiful, or like, I don't get it, but I'm kind of mesmerized by it. Or you're like, that looks really weird and I don't like it. But kind of like, it's hard to have a middle ground. So I actually think it's like an amazing sort of place to be in terms of your artistry. Pick like one other thing, maybe specific to you as like a musician. Like sometimes it could be your sound or your musicianship or your articulation or your phrasing or your whatever. Like, just pick one other thing that comes to mind. Don't overthink it.
Yeah, well, because the thing is I have my answer. It's just very meathead, and I don't necessarily like that. It's mainly just that I've been to so many concerts where I have sort of been, to a degree, let down by the trumpet. Not in the sense that was bad, but just it didn't feel like a voice that was really speaking. It was sort of just there, and it'll be on like big pieces. Like Heldenleben, I think I've been to a concert, and I was just kind of like, yeah, they were there, they did it, they did the job, and I never want to play like that. I always want to, especially on larger works where my voice is supposed to be heard, I want to be someone that is heard in the audience and is able to make a sound that is impactful to them, both quiet and loud, soft and loud, sorry. I want to have softs that are able to carry to the audience and they're able to feel it, but I also want to have louds that are able to fill the entire room and like maybe at times take the audience aback, because I think there are moments in music that are meant to be sort of shocking.
So maybe you are describing wanting to be a very like dynamic player.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So what you did not say is like what you want to be is someone who like plays all the stuff really perfectly or nails all of the whatevers, right? Like you, when I asked you what you wanted, what came to your mind, you said, I want someone to have an opinion and I want to be dynamic, which kind of those things go kind of hand in hand, right? Some people might think that's too loud, or somebody might be like, oh, that doesn't, like they might have an opinion. So what I'm suggesting to you is you can do that no matter what you do. Like you may struggle in some situations that the music is more difficult, and other situations, like maybe you're playing Beethoven, it's like I get to be a little bit less of this person. Yes. Because it's hard to be a dynamic trumpet player in Beethoven, but there are opportunities. But at the same time, like someone having an opinion is that could be any number of things in something like Beethoven. It could be the intensity of the sort of like support you give in terms of like harmonic or the rhythmic support. Like you're not in the way, you're where you're supposed to be, but you're really like, you're not just phoning it in. Like I think you can do
Correct.
that no matter what you're doing, right? So I guess we go back to, if those are the things you want to be true about you, if those are two things, do you see how it shouldn't be context dependent for whether or not you play like that?
Absolutely.
And then do you feel like if you played like that, and then you, of course, like learn how to be sensitive, and like you said, maybe sometimes you're not supposed to be the loudest thing or whatever, the softest, Yeah. But if you felt like you were walking into situations, no matter what it was, and you knew what you had to offer, do you feel like that would affect the confidence and sort of just like you know who you are, so you feel like it's easier for you to play true to you? Do you feel like that would affect that?
I think it would give me the, I guess, ability to approach all music the same, in the sense of giving it the same intention and the same degree of detail that I do to music that I like and music that I enjoy playing in positions that I'm confident in. If I'm able to do that in things that I'm not confident in, I mean, then it doesn't matter what I'm playing, ever. It will always be me playing the things the way I want them to sound, no matter what.
And like you said, sometimes in an ensemble, you are in a position where you don't get to do that, right? And so,
correct, yeah. Well, I guess my view on that would be then I am giving you my sound and my voice, but in this context, it is fitting into this other group of people that I'm meant to support. Not that it doesn't, I guess, matter.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is like you sort of were speaking at the beginning of this kind of discussion, saying like, well, when I'm playing in this, I feel like I can be me. And then what I'm suggesting to you is I just don't think you fully like knew who you were. Like you haven't necessarily fully thought out what things about, so, and maybe you could even separate them. Which things are things that are true about me no matter what? Which things are true about me when I play principal? Which things are true about me when I play in the section? Which things are true about me when I play a solo or chamber music? So like if you know what's true about you in these different scenarios, and then especially which things are true, and you get to decide. That's the cool part, right? Like maybe you've had teachers in the past who have suggested certain identity traits. You want to sound like this, you want to approach it like this, and you should take all of that in. But ultimately, for you to have the kind of confidence you're looking for, you need to decide what you think. You need to have the authority and like the identity that you want right now. And it can also always evolve and change. It doesn't have to be locked in for your entire life one way or another. And I think even just going through the exercise of thinking, who am I no matter what, and who am I in these different contexts? If you can come up with like one or two things that you're like, as long as this is true, I feel like I'm playing like me, I believe that could help move the needle in these situations. Do you see kind of what I mean by that?
I absolutely do.
So what do you think I mean by that?
I think what you mean by that is through me, I guess, doing self-discovery in situations that I haven't done self-discovery in, I can then learn to apply characteristics of myself and my own playing to that so that I can then become confident through that and just keep building that confidence.
Yeah, you said it beautifully. For the values question, I feel like we actually touched on it in the belief, like trying to maybe focus a little bit less on the value of joy, although it's valuable, but we're going to almost look at joy as it is a result of other values that we choose to focus on. And one of them being either curiosity or like kind of like trying to, I would say being curious, your work being interesting and engaging is kind of a result of that. So I would say for you, I would really try to focus on curiosity personally. I mean, I think that's one you could cultivate that would make a big difference. I want to affirm, though, your perseverance and like grit and your willingness to just say, you know what, I'm not going to give up on this. Even if I get off track, I'm going to try to bring myself back. Like that is an insanely necessary thing to have to get where you want to go. And I want to affirm that for you, that those values are every principal trumpet in an orchestra will have those types of values. And so, although there are some ways you can grow in terms of values, I would say the values you have are a strength of your approach, and it will serve you really well. What are your thoughts about that?
I would agree with you. I mean, whenever I think of great principal trumpet players and truthfully the amount of adversity that a lot of them have had to face, or just honestly the confidence they have built that has led them to being resilient, it makes them capable, especially of in performance, never crumbling and never folding, which I think that is a chair that is 100% necessary to do. You cannot be someone who ever has something affect you so much that you phone in the rest of the performance. You can't do that ever. And I think if you don't have any amount of resilience and grit, it's just going to fall apart. Because I think pretty much every performance everyone does, there's some mistake somewhere, some bigger than others, obviously. But you just have to be able to get yourself back on track.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I obviously, having played principal for a while, and it's easy because like little things can bother you, but also the only way I wouldn't say you're wrong, but I would say that a life in music is great, but I would caution you to elevate it to like a place of like it is the end all be, like basically like if you imagine, I think that there are examples of people who have like maybe had family members like pass away and then they have to go play a concert. Like, I actually agree with you in that moment. Like, the professional thing to do is to pull it together unless you can't, and then maybe, you know, you figure that out. But I also think that we want to be able to see people as human beings and like recognize that, like, if someone is like, I'm struggling in this way and I'm going to do my best to bring it, but for whatever reason, some of these things, and for right now, I just want you to be able to see yourself that way.
Can I reframe my thought, I guess, a little bit?
You can say whatever you want, sure.
I agree with you 100%. I guess for me, resilience and grit is truthfully not having the ability to keep bringing your best and putting forward your best no matter what has happened to you, even if that means sometimes your best is maybe down here or up here or wherever it is. As long as it is the best you can do, I think that's exactly what you need to be doing.
Yeah, and I would agree. And I want to point out, too, that obviously resilience, grit, these are values, but the way you just described it is that this value is so strong in you that it's actually part of your identity. Do you understand what I mean by that? It's not just that you try to be resilient, it's that you have cultivated enough resilience that is just how you are. Like, you don't have to try to be resilient. That's
just what I'm going to do.
It's just who you are. It's like, it's not so much, okay, in this situation, I need to try. It's like, I am a person who is resilient. So it's like when we also, I kind of want to try to point that out, that we may lack certain values, or we may say I want to grow in certain values. But the thing that's really amazing about values is as we aim to cultivate them, at first, it might, like for you, at first, curiosity might ebb and flow and wane. You might be like, so I'm curious, somebody is not. But as you apply discipline and grit and you keep trying, over the course of time, this funny thing is going to, and it might take, let's say it takes a year. Over the course of time, this funny thing happens where like all of a sudden you don't have to try to be curious anymore. You're just like a curious person.
I see what you're saying now, yes.
And so that's what we're working towards. My example to this would be I struggled with discipline for a long time in my life. As organized as I am now, it was not always this way. And what actually helped me was I bought like a workout program from a guy that was really hard. And I made the commitment that I was going to show up, right? And so at first, discipline was hard. There'd be days I wouldn't feel like doing it. So then I would have to be like, okay, that's like double the reason to go and do the thing because I don't feel like doing it. So I almost would say, anytime I say I don't want to do it, I would make this resolve in my head that I'm going to go do there, and I'm going to almost like give twice as much effort in a sense, right? I'm going to meet it there. And I would say that doing that over a period of time, it turned me into a disciplined person. Like I was not that way. And so there's this sort of middle ground where people can sometimes struggle and they can be like, I want this, but it's hard. But the more you are curious in your practice sessions, a way it's been described is you have like, let's say you have like 2 dogs that live inside of you, and the one that you feed is the one that's going to grow.
Yeah.
And so if you are more likely to feed that dog, right, that's curious, the more that's just like, you don't have to try to be curious. You're just like, let me sit down and see what I can learn. And you don't even think it. I have one more story about this. I also was a player who didn't record myself like a ton when I was younger, right? I did record myself, but not like crazy. And then over the course of time of developing systems and learning and seeing like how much I can grow through recording myself, I just did this Philadelphia audition prep, right? And on day one, you might have even been in this live stream. On day one, I was like, I'm just going to play through the excerpts and not record it. Like, it's not that big of a deal. It's fine. And I played one repetition without recording myself. And I was like, how do I know what I sound like? Like, how do I know what to work on? How do I know how to get better without recording myself? And it was just this weird moment of like, that's how sort of far I've come in a sense. Yes. That like now I don't know how to practice without recording myself if improvement is the goal. It's like now it's I don't even understand how to do it.
Yes.
And so that's kind of what I'm suggesting to you, is that I'm trying to paint the picture that this is not going to be an overnight process, but the more you like are curious and you kind of see what that looks like in your practice sessions, the more you start to turn into a person who is just curious, and it's no longer hard to do it.
Yes.
How does that, if you could do that, if you like stuck with it long enough to become a curious person, what do you feel like the effect would be of that? How do you think things would be different?
I think I would just be a much more creative musician. I think that I would likely be able to have new thoughts and new ideas and approaches to music that I probably never would have thought of previously. And also that leading into my own practice. Like I'd probably be able to come up with and think of ideas in my own practice that would allow me to improve quicker without even realizing that I'm generally being curious, because I'm able to dig in more without realizing that I'm digging in more almost, and coming up with ideas more than I was before without realizing that I am coming up with more ideas.
And so like take that one step further, right? You're a more creative musician, like you're just sort of stumbling upon things that are like helping you get better. Take that and advance that out 2 years, advance working like that 2 years. How do you think things would be different in your playing 2 years from now with that kind of approach?
I think overall my playing would be a lot more flexible. I think I would be able to play a lot more different styles and probably be able to do them a lot more accurately, because I likely would have gone in and taken the time through being curious to listen to this music and trying to spend time figuring it out and getting new ideas and surrounding things like that, which would then transfer to me being able to be a better performer.
And that's the end goal, right? Like,
Yep.
just a better performer. So we're connecting some of this joy you want, right, with cultivating these values. I know we already talked about that, but I'm just trying to reconnect it here, that all of these things kind of serve each other in a sense. It's not like they're separate categories, although we can assess them separately. You can see how building one will affect the other, developing one turns into an identity, those types of things. So hopefully that makes sense. I want to move on to organization and practice systems, because we will sit here for a second, we'll finish it, and then I want to come back, and that's where I want to kind of break down. Because to me, your organization, the way you're thinking about how to like decide what to play and when to play it. I know you and I have had some experiences in the past of like structure, so I'm going to ask you about that a little bit. And then the practice systems of how you're like essentially gathering data, like how you're being curious in your practice. I want to dig into that at the end of the session. So we're going to cover it very briefly here, which is you have room for improvement here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I like I said, we'll come back to it, but organization, according to this list, organization is the place you have the most room for improvement in. Like in terms of structures and in terms of like knowing how to like just get everything so you're covering your bases and it's not too much and you've got this plan that's clear and you know what to do.
I would thoroughly agree with that, and that's sort of the way my life is as well. It's probably the thing I struggle with the most, and it's fun, and it's not necessarily like organizing things themselves, but like physical organization I'm fine with, like cleaning up a house or cleaning a room, but like scheduling the time to do it, how I'm going to do it and when I'm going to do it, I'm a nightmare. Yeah. And that applies to almost everything.
Well, maybe we can dig into that a little bit. It's like life coaching is a little bit outside of my area of expertise, but I'm happy to provide some ideas. So let's set those two things aside right now. We will come back and cover those at the end. Let's move on to fundamentals, where it sounds like here, their fundamentals are generally strong. Like everybody, you've got a couple areas, like your low range. It says low range, flexibility, and multiple tonguing are areas you've identified that still have room for improvement. But the one I want to encourage you is obviously when you've had some of these things in alignment in the past, the growth could happen, and maybe it was even fast, as you would describe it.
Yes.
So I actually want to set this one aside as well, because I have a feeling if we get you organized and we get a good, curious practice system going, I would be interested to see how you feel your fundamentals are affected by that.
Gotcha.
Make sense?
I think, yes, it does.
Okay. So we have musicianship. What it looks like here is probably very similar to your identity. In situations that you have a lot of experience, you feel like you can be the musician you want. And in situations where you have less experience, you maybe feel a little bit like you don't want to stretch your wings, or you don't necessarily know exactly like how you want to phrase or how you want to sound or what the style should be. Can you tell me a little bit more about if I'm on the right path and kind of expand upon it a little bit?
I think you're definitely on the right path. For me, I am someone who, with the music I've spent time with, I often have developed very thorough and clear ideas of how I want it to sound. And when I go to play it, I play it that way. On music I haven't spent time with, which is, I'd say, a more wide variety of orchestral music. I know pretty well how I want a lot of the larger works to sound, but I haven't delved deeper into like smaller works, not even smaller works, but just things that everyone knows almost, but that still show up on like all of our lists.
So you just said, with things I've spent a lot of time with, I feel comfortable with, but things I haven't spent a lot of time with, I don't feel comfortable with. So what do you feel like the obvious solution is to help your musicianship?
Spend more time with the things I'm not comfortable with.
Okay, so That's obvious, but that's not necessarily a solution. So what I want to know is, do you feel like you've got strategies for how to listen, how to do score study in a way where you feel like, yeah, so we can talk about that too. I feel like that's a lot of people's hang up is like, how do I even approach this?
Because this is the funny thing is I sort of got organization handed to me in the palm of my hands in regards to solo trumpet playing, because there's this YouTube channel called Kluge Brass Consort that has multiple recordings of like God knows how many trumpet solos. I've listened to literally every video on that channel, and many of them a lot, because there's the music following along to it, and I can listen to it and like actually watch how these people are phrasing things, and it just got handed to me. Whereas with other things, like I need to, I guess, figure out how and what I'm going to do. And then in regards to score studying, I feel like I don't really know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah. I will send you like a listening guide, which is like, try to listen for these types of things, and to help you maybe just have a little bit of like a guided experience because you're right. There's a difference between I'm just listening, and like when you listen as much as you've listened to those things, yeah, it's just going to osmosis its way into your bones, right? But other times when we're trying to listen, sometimes we're just trying to listen for how it goes. Like, how fast is it? How slow is it? How loud is it? But to go another layer deeper to get that, I'll give you an example. When I was in, again, this is one of my live streams. It's on my YouTube channel. But one of the excerpts I had to learn for Philadelphia was the first movement of the Shostakovich Piano Concerto. There's an excerpt. But I had never worked on this excerpt before. I knew sort of how it sounded, but I didn't really know it, right? And so I was like, what I first need to do is listen for this. But when I'm listening to it, I'm listening for like lightness, and I'm listening for like, how are they interpreting this forte? Like, are they playing really loud? Are they interpreting it in a way where it doesn't make sense? And then there was a second phrase that was written piano marcato, and it sounded like some recordings were just playing loud. And I was like, well, that's weird. Like, that's not what's written in the page, but that's how they're playing it. And then I found other recordings where it was a little softer. And then I was like, let me go check the score, right? Maybe the score will have a little bit of clarity, like what's the piano doing? And all of a sudden I'm like deep in an exploration of curiosity.
Yes.
And what I'm looking for on the other side is to make my own decision about how do I think this should go? How loud do I think I should play this? How fast do I think I should play this? And this is kind of at the essence of listening, is you're not just listening to be like, how does that person play it? But you're listening enough where you feel like, I feel comfortable based on what is out there. I'm informed, but it's time for me to make my own decisions about musicianship. And I feel like that is what it sounds like to me you're lacking. It's a bit of the identity thing, right? Because you haven't spent as much time with it. But you also will develop some more of this identity as you make specific musical decisions about what you think is right. But the problem is we can't just do that based on instinct, right? Because we don't, it's like,
Correct.
It's like you're reading a language that you've never heard in your life and you're just deciding, I think this is how it's pronounced. Like we want information based on like what's out there and how people are interpreting things to make our own interpretations. But at a certain point in time, we have to say, this is how I think I'm going to interpret forte in this context. And it's got to mean more than just loud. Maybe you're going to attach a character to it, or you're going to attach a certain sound, color, or intensity to it. And when you make those specific choices, I want you to tell me, how much easier do you think it would be to play like you if you had made those specific choices?
Miles easier. I mean...
And why would it be easier?
Truthfully, because I'd have sort of an unwavering understanding of how exactly I want it to sound. And so it would just sound like that.
Yeah. Like it can be that simple, but again, it can be helpful to have some resources that will help you kind of at least begin the process of thinking through listening. So I can send you some stuff that will help you out with that. So we're just going to that's going to be kind of that conversation. Just what we need you to do to improve in this category is take the leap. And again, this is even separate from whether or not you think you can fundamentally, comfortably play what you want and what you hear in your head. This is just, it's like making decisions.
Yeah.
That's all it is. We just want you to have a little bit more authority that your version is right.
Yes.
And then finally, we have ease and flow. And so you've got this. Obviously, you and I have chatted before, but just to remind me of this Respighi performance story, because you mentioned it and said that was a time you really felt like things were like lined up and things were easy and you were feeling good. Can you remind me of that story again? Or how it pertains to ease and flow?
I guess it pertains to ease and flow in the sense that it is one of very few times while on stage I sort of was able to pretty much mostly let go and just play the way I wanted things to sound, and felt like there wasn't anything on the page I couldn't do that with. It definitely wasn't a perfect performance by any means. Like, I've listened back to it and there's some mistakes and missed notes, but overall I felt like I was able to deliver, like, this is pretty much how I can do this. And I was confident in that. And I've not played many concerts like that. But it did honestly, in large part, pertain to me feeling like we played 3 pieces, but on all 3 of them, I felt like I could just play all of them. Like, there was no part of them that I was going to struggle with.
Yeah. Okay. This is going to be very cool. Are you ready? We're going to set again. Did you practice these pieces a lot?
Yeah.
Okay. So you probably started off looking at that and you had that big belief, right? You had that big belief. I can do this. I can play principal on this. I can nail this, because that's part of that's just part of your belief system. Yeah.
Yes.
So that allowed you to even begin to do the things that someone who believed they could nail it would do. Right? If you didn't believe that, you would not have done the things that you did to be able to nail it. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
And then we move on to values. Because you believed it, you were like, all right, I got to be the kind of person who puts in the work because I believe this is possible and I want that outcome. So you were a person, I'm sure, who you were probably a little bit more curious, and you still had your perseverance and your grit. I know you were at IU at the time, right?
Yes.
And so you had also like a community of support around you. You got feedback from teachers, I'm sure, to help move you in that direction. So you just had like your values were very aligned with having that kind of outcome.
Yes.
You already have explained that when you play principal in an orchestra, you feel very confident because you understand what to do. And so your identity was not something that was stopping you. It was something that it was going to let you do it. You practiced in a way that allowed you to, like, you were organized, and you practiced in a way that led you to being able to develop this piece. The piece was within your fundamental skill range, right? It wasn't like, missing something is different than I can't play that or I struggle to play that.
Yeah.
And because you were playing principal and I'm sure you were getting feedback, you probably walked in there with very clear ideas of what you wanted to sound like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of that together resulted in the ease and the flow that you experienced.
Gotcha.
So what I'm trying to say is there are ways you can sort of prepare and build and get used to ease and flow. But the way I would do it is at the end of a practice session, or maybe at the beginning of it, depending on what you want to do, for 5 or 10 minutes, play like a lyrical study, something that has all of those traits. You believe you can sound great. Like you see yourself as someone who's going to play with a beautiful sound, whatever, right? All of those traits.
Yes.
And practice letting go. Practice mentally letting go and just letting things happen, and show yourself that when you have an alignment of all these things, you can actually experience ease of playing and flow. Just that idea that you're not overthinking anything and you're enjoying the moment. That's a way you can work on that on a regular basis, so that when you get into concerts where all those things are true, you have some experience in the practice room getting into that headspace.
Yes.
So it's not some sort of foreign place that you magically hope, you've randomly found this path. It's like a path that you've walked before, in practice sessions in basic ways so you have experience with that. That would be probably the only way I could encourage you past that, other than to say, as you develop these other categories, you will be able to experience that more. Does that make sense? And what do you think about that?
Yes, that does make sense. And I guess for me, almost learning what letting go feels like and what it feels like when I'm blank, like I'm letting go, will then allow me to transfer that feeling to things that I have weaknesses in, and then cause them to be things that I just play without thinking. Even though they may be weaknesses now, they can be just another thing that I know I'm good to go with.
All right. I'm glad you said what you just said. What you just said, if my practice was organized properly and I understand how to use it, I would be able to use my practice sessions to get into that place more often.
Yes.
So we're going to boil down almost every problem that you experience. We're going to boil down to, if you just organized and you approach it with curiosity, it's going to work on everything else. That's why, to me, organization is often one of the highest leverage things you can focus on. Building some sort of organizational system that is like, this works for me, and then understanding how to use that system. Deliberate practice is the way that I think it's best done to drive progress, because it's going to affect belief. It's going to build identity. It's going to help you be more patient if you have a process. It's going to help you be curious if you have a process. It's easier to have grit and perseverance if you see the process is working. It's going to help you develop your fundamentals, because that will be the result of doing all that.
Yeah.
It will help you explore musicianship, because you'll just develop a slightly different system for how to do that. And all of that together will result. And like you said, you can practice getting into that headspace so you know what you're looking for when you're performing, and all of those skills coming together. So that, to me, again, this is why organization is like it's like the highest leverage activity for a lot of people, maybe not everybody, for a lot of people. And it is why I believe my practicing transformed and my performing transformed after I got organized, for everything I just said. So when I shared my organizational method with you, I want to know a couple of things. One, what did you think of it? Did you feel like it was producing the kind of the results you were looking for in terms of how you wanted to feel? And two, are you still doing it?
Yes, I did. It was just that, as I was sort of telling you, I was struggling with it. And then at the start, I will say I wasn't. I think as I started to get more into it, and I guess results weren't as immediate, I did start struggling. And to the second question, no, I have not. I'm still trying to do it every day. I've definitely ran into way more hiccups than I would like. Like, the past few months of my life have been pretty terrible, but I've still tried to keep going with it. And I'm sort of busier than I ever have been, because right now I am working full time while trying to do this.
Sure.
So it's definitely made it difficult, but I still sort of have this belief, honestly, probably with organization, that I will be able to get fully back into the swing of it and get it even better than how I was approaching it from the start. But I actually, every single practice session I've done since you gave me that has been through that method. I've always used it. I've like over 800 recordings, I think, or 700 recordings on my iPad right now of me playing.
Yeah, good. And I want to encourage you, based on what I understand for this conversation and the results of this survey, and just knowing you, it's not like it hasn't worked. It's not like you've stayed completely stagnant. So even hearing you say, it's actually funny, even hearing you say what you say, this is what I'm going to recommend for you. And I want you to tell me how this sounds, but also in the context of our entire conversation, not just like, how does it sound, but now, like, and you want to take a second to think about it. Do you think it could be as simple as just starting the routine? I gave you a 2-week routine, just starting it over exactly where you're at, and the only change that you're going to make is to explore what it looks like to be more curious.
That interestingly almost reinvigorates my interest in just starting like completely over, maybe even using the exercises I used for the first one, because I think if I approach it more curiously, I would be able to get more out of it. Maybe even then from the first time I tried it, from this sort of new mindset.
That's amazing.
I don't know why I couldn't, whatever. I didn't think about it like that. It's what it is. But that's crazy. That makes me just want to start digging in again and just go and really try to be curious about it. And I will say with that, be organized enough to make sure to pretty much give myself the ability to do it every day. Because if I'm organized enough, I know I will do it. When I'm organized, I have zero problem being disciplined. Zero. It's like, I obviously still have the day-to-day struggles as everyone does, but when I'm organized, it is significantly easier for me to just keep going. I just think I'm not organized right now.
So that sounds like, I mean, this is going to be, this will sound weirdly like aggressive or blunt, but that sounds like a values problem, right?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. So like that would be another way in which to grow and to look forward to growing. That's like, as you come up against situations in which you don't feel like being organized or you're not organized, continually making the choice to like say, you know what, like I am the person, like it is like me to be organized. Like I am someone who is organized. The more times you choose that, the easier in 3 to 6 months it will be for you just to act that way because you've flexed that muscle. So it seems like to me, this is crazy because I didn't necessarily even think we were going to get to this point. It seems like to me, literally everything about your ability to make progress rests on you shifting what satisfies you about practice from seeking external joy to internal curiosity.
Yes.
That one shift, if you did everything exactly the same, but that one shift could literally be the thing that makes it so every day you're excited to show up to practice for what you're going to learn, that consistency is going to be there, which is going to make you see results, which is going to make you excited, which is going to help instill your belief that it's possible, which is going to keep you going long enough. Plus the other system about listening, which we'll get, is going to help you build your musicianship and identity. And it's like everything could rise and it's all hinged upon. You're going to be upset when I say this. It's just that you were looking to the wrong thing for validation.
Yes.
And that's okay. It's good that we know that. So then I'm going to ask you what ideas, because actually according to this survey, you have some ideas surrounding what it could look like to be curious. Like, what does curiosity then mean to you in a practice session so that you kind of know exactly what activities you're going to engage in, so that you're saying, my practice is curious. I am being curious. What do you think you would need to do? Clarity on this is going to fix everything.
Yeah. I think something that would probably instantly make things better is trying not to be so rigid in my thoughts whenever I'm listening back to repetitions I've played.
What do you mean by that?
I think oftentimes I feel like I'm hearing the same thing over and over and over again in my recordings, and so very often I've written down the same thing a lot. I feel like even if maybe the issue is the same, if I could even just get in a headspace where I could try to find a different way of approaching it instead of just writing the same problem and thinking of a relatively similar solution every time, I would then be able to get out of my own head in my own way with things that I struggle with.
Sure. I'm going to suggest something else. I know you journal. You're talking about writing the same things, so I'm assuming that's journaling. I want to like suggest a small tweak or a couple tweaks. I know we've talked about this, so I want to make sure that this makes sense. The first thing I would do is anytime you're writing something, if you are writing a problem, I would always be phrasing it in the positive thing you are going to do differently next time to do it differently. So like with your low register, if the notes aren't as centered as you want it to be, you're not going to write notes aren't centered. You're going to write think more focused, think more forward, focus on the way I'm breathing. Like you're going to write something you're going to think about that could yield a different result. And then that is where your headspace is the next one. This is a huge part of being curious is you're effectively trying out different headspaces.
Yes.
Different ways of thinking. And then when you eventually find something that yields the result you want, on a separate page, you'll recall it like solutions page, you're going to write that down.
Okay.
So if you then find yourself later on in the process, you're like, a week later, 2 weeks, a month later, you're like, oh, I'm like kind of back into that rut again. And you're like, I know I solved this, but that way you don't have to search through all of your pages in your journal. It's like right there on the solutions page.
Yeah.
And you can write like, low register is best when I think this or when I do this. And then that becomes a thing you can do to remind yourself over and over and over and over again, because, you want repeatable results, but you want repeatable results with the results that you want.
Yes.
Not necessarily repeating what you don't want.
Yes.
The other thing I'm going to suggest to you is I think you need more feedback loops that aren't you. Like, think of how much in this conversation that you have been like, I've never thought about it that way. I've never thought about it that way. It's possible that you're a bit like circling the drain because you're sort of limited by what your own understanding of various solutions are.
Yes.
And that if you were able to reach out, whether it's like you pay somebody, which would be great because I guarantee you paying somebody money would speed up the process again, right? Yes. But even if you wanted to just start with like, if you have like friends from school or colleagues or whatnot, and just be like, hey, I'm kind of struggling with this. Like, what ideas do you have? At minimum, just having a sounding board, I think could make a difference in your ability to get out of your own head or out of your own way a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yes, it absolutely does.
So I think you need to put a value on seeking outside feedback for a period of time until you start to really develop that really clear picture of how your trumpet works successfully. And this is an important thing, like it can feel very easy that you're supposed to have everything all figured out by the time you graduate, and like if you didn't figure it out in your education, you're like, well, you're on your own. But like the amount of stuff that I'm figuring out now at 37 is like this process doesn't ever stop. And if the thing is, you can totally do it on your own. Right? You can totally do it. You can do it through recordings and an incredible amount of trial and error. Like what we just talked about, you're thinking different thoughts. You can do this on your own. If you want it to happen faster so you can have the joy of seeing that regular progress, outside feedback, I think, will be a very reliable way for you to be able to keep moving it. So, you can decide what you think that is. And like I've got a program that does that. So if you want more information about like you would have that support along the way, you'd have me for the systems and the feedback and all that stuff. If that's something you're interested in, we can talk about that. But I think regardless if you go in the direction of working with me or something else, I want to make sure you understand like why I'm saying outside feedback loops I think would be very important for you right now in your development.
Yes, because I have a lot I don't know. I mean, I think that is really what it boils down to. And there are a lot of people that even I think through talking to them or just getting feedback from them, maybe what they say isn't necessarily what I take from it, but a thought that what they say gives that I would have never thought of unless I heard them say what they said. And I would never thought of it if I didn't seek feedback from them.
Yeah. So there's a couple of new things for you to prioritize. And I know it's funny because this whole survey is like huge and massive, but I hope you're actually encouraged that we could boil it down to just a couple of small changes could make the whole mechanism like work more in harmony.
Yes.
Do you have any?
Also,
go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Just it helps me a lot because I guess it helps me to feel like there's a more concrete solution than just to a degree banging my head against the wall and just figuring it out and just doing it through sheer perseverance, no matter what. Like, if I can make it easier on myself, I should do that.
Have you been feeling like you've been banging your head up against the wall?
At times, mainly just in like my day-to-day just general struggles. It feels like I'm banging my head against a wall, but I am actively taking steps to fix that. So
hopefully this is helpful towards that. I mean, nobody wants to be banging their head up against the wall, but like you're saying, if there's a lot you don't know and you're not getting outside feedback and your practice in and of itself is not necessarily driving learning as its main priority, I can totally understand how you would end up feeling like I'm really trying to do all the right things, but because I'm missing this component, it's like not coming together.
Yeah. Yes.
Do you have any questions for me? I know I've been talking a lot and I've been asking you a lot of questions. Do you have any questions for me?
How did you cultivate thoughts or ideas around things you, I guess, didn't know or even knew where to go to know?
Yeah. So there's two ways. One is obviously I've had great teaching, Anderson and then Barbara Butler. There's a lot of a lineage there that I got a lot of ideas to pull from. But I'll tell you, one of the ways that I feel like I've made a lot of gains recently is I just watch people that I like. For me, the coolest example is those Håkan Hardenberger Charlier videos. Maybe we talked about this. I just like watched him do it, and then I was like, what do I think he's doing? And I just sort of, that was like the thing. That was like the itch I needed to scratch for a long time. That was the curiosity, is like, I just want to try to figure out what he's doing. And so first you have to identify what is it that I like about it. And one of the things he was doing that I did not do as well is his articulation is just like so beautiful. And it's like part of the beauty of his presentation is how he releases the note. And I was like, man, my playing is not like that. And so I just started being like, how's he doing that? Like, what's going on? What do I think it sounds like? What do I think would cause that? And it did cause me to start to think slightly more like sort of physically or technically about what I was doing. And so you can get sort of lost in that. And so basically the process is like, try to think to yourself, what's something different? Like, so was there a different way I could breathe? And there's research on this. If you should check it out if you want, or just like Chat GPT, say like, tell me things about Gabriella Wolf's focus of attention research, and look that up, because it's really the heart of what it is if I breathe and I think I want to feel cold air in my mouth, or I want to feel it on my lips, that produced two different results. And all I was thinking is changing where the cold air was.
Yeah.
So that is in essence like what the experimentation is like in practice. Right. Yeah. And so for the low register for you, it might be something along the lines of, you're like, okay, well, when I watch people who have great low registers, things stay very still.
Yes.
I don't see that they're dropping their jaw very much. But when I try to stay very still, things are difficult. So first you want to like organize and develop like a exercise or something that will allow you to explore it in the way that will be helpful to you. So you could do like low, like sometimes that could be, like the low register drills from Phil Snedecor's book, or the etudes. But sometimes that could just be like playing a scale from the middle register down to the bottom and being like, what would it look like for me to keep everything exactly the same? And is that like a plausible thing? But then it also could be like, well, what if I do that, but I start focusing on the vibration that's on my lip all the way down? Like, does that change how it feels? Then it could be, let me think about the way I'm breathing, or let me think about the word forward, or let me think about, like, there's another trumpet teacher who said, put the sound at the tip of your nose. And it's like, all right, let me think about that. You're just testing out different thoughts to see if they yield slightly different results. And the weird thing about this research is it does.
That's crazy.
Somehow these differences in like thinking. Here's an example. I was working with my students, teaching them about consistent and energized airstream. I went through a similar process you and I went through previously. And I would be like, what are you thinking about in terms of your Airstream right now? And they said, I'm thinking about like spitting out like a stream of water. Right? That's effectively exactly the same thing that I think about, which is to feel the vibration on the lip inside the cup. But somehow it yielded different results. And I just don't understand why that is right now. But that is the curiosity part, is like, if you just said to yourself, I'm just going to show up to practice, and for the length of time I'm practicing, whether it's 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, the main goal is going to be deciding ahead of time, ahead of a repetition, ahead of an exercise, what is it that I want to think during this? And then record yourself, and then journal on the result. Did I sound the way I wanted to sound? Do I remember it feeling easy? And then the next day or late, right after that, do another repetition and think of a different thing.
Yeah.
This is the trial and error part of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you keep in a journal, you write ahead, this day, this exercise, this rep, I thought this result was X. And then just say to yourself, for the next 3 months, my only goal is just to like be curious and explore different thoughts and see what they do.
Yeah.
That takes so much pressure off of you saying, I got to get better, because the point is not getting better. The point is learning as much as you can.
Yes.
And you're going to like, you're going to figure some stuff out. And once you do, you're going to have some ideas on like, okay, well, let me now make a decision. I'm going to think these thoughts, try to do them more consistently to see if I can drive more consistency into my playing. This is kind of how you do it. Make sense?
Yes, it does.
Awesome. Wow. I hope you feel this session was helpful. Did you have any final thoughts or comments or questions?
I think that was the really only question I had. Thank you for your time. I mean, seriously, it means a lot.
Yeah.
This was very, very helpful, and I've honestly been needing a small win to get me to keep going, and this feels like a huge one to help me just keep pushing and really be able to find new ways to see improvement and just keep on keeping on.